การสัมมนาของเราได้เริ่มต้นขึ้นแล้วนะคะขอเรียนเชิญคุณพันธิดาวงศ์ประสงค์ค่ะผู้อำนวยการสำนักนวัตกรรมและทุนการศึกษากองทุนเพื่อความเสมอภาคทางการศึกษาผู้ดำเนินรายการของเราในวันนี้ค่ะขอเรียนเชิญค่ะ
ค่ะสวัสดีค่ะก็สวัสดีท่านผู้บริหารสถานศึกษานะคะแล้วก็คุณครูทุกท่านนะคะก็เราเห็นรายชื่อนะคะมีหลายท่านนะคะคุณหน้าคุณตานะคะก็วันนี้ขอต้อนรับทุกท่านนะคะเข้าสู่เวทีนะคะประชุมวิชาการนานาชาตินะคะที่กสจัดมาครั้งนี้เป็นครั้งที่15แล้วนะคะก็โดยตัวกสเองเนี่ยค่ะเราก็พยายามที่จะนำความรู้นะคะจากต่างประเทศนะคะเข้ามาแลกเปลี่ยนกับความรู้ในประเทศไทยนะคะซึ่งก็มีหลายหัวข้อทีเดียวนะคะไม่ว่าจะเป็นเรื่องของการเรียนการสอนในห้องเรียนสำหรับเด็กประถมวัยนะคะเด็กประถมศึกษารวมไปถึงอาชีวศึกษาด้วยนะคะแล้วก็มีจากหลายประเทศเลยค่ะในที่ผ่านมาที่ได้มานำเสนอให้กับเราได้ฟังกันนะคะไม่ว่าจะเป็นประเทศนิวซีแลนด์นะคะหรือว่าที่อินเดียหรือแม้กระทั่งที่เกาหลีใต้ด้วยนะคะทางฝั่งยุโรปก็มีนะคะก็คิดว่าน่าจะเป็นเวทีนานาชาตินะคะที่เราจะได้นำองค์ความรู้ใหม่ๆจากต่างประเทศเข้ามาแล้วก็ขณะเดียวกันเนี่ยได้มีโอกาสแลกเปลี่ยนบทเรียนหรือนวัตกรรมดีๆของประเทศไทยกับในเวทีต่างประเทศด้วยนะคะก็หวังว่าจะเป็นประโยชน์นะคะสำหรับหัวข้อในวันนี้นะคะก็เป็นเรื่องของเปิดโรดแมพสร้างครูมืออาชีพประเทศสิงคโปร์นะคะก็เป็นประเทศที่อยู่ไม่ไกลจากเรานะคะแต่ต้องบอกว่าประเทศสิงคโปร์เนี่ยเป็นประเทศที่มีการศึกษาที่ดีที่สุดในโลกประเทศหนึ่งเลยนะคะแล้วก็รวมไปถึงนะคะเขามองเรื่องของการสร้างแล้วก็พัฒนาครูมืออาชีพนี่แหละค่ะเป็นหัวใจของการระบบการศึกษาของประเทศสิงคโปร์นะคะซึ่งนี้เราจะมาลงลึกด้วยกันนะคะว่าคำว่าครูมืออาชีพนะคะประเทศสิงคโปร์เนี่ยมีวิธีสร้างอย่างไรแล้วก็หน่วยงานไหนนะคะแล้วก็รวมไปถึงทักษะที่สำคัญของครูมืออาชีพที่กล่าวถึงเนี่ยภายใต้บริบทใหม่นะคะตอนนี้เรากำลังเจอสถานการณ์โควิดนะคะแล้วหลังโควิดนะคะถ้าการเป็นครูมืออาชีพหลังโควิดเนี่ยเป็นอย่างไรก็เดี๋ยวอีกครู่หนึ่งจะมีวิทยากรจากประเทศสิงคโปร์มาเล่าให้ฟังนะคะก็ขออนุญาตแนะนำนะคะท่านชื่อลียันเคงนะคะท่านเป็นผู้อำนวยการนะคะพัฒนาวิชาชีพครูเขต1นะคะจาก Academy of Singapore Teachers นะคะก็ซึ่งเป็นส่วนหนึ่งนะคะของกระทรวงศึกษาธิการด้วยนะคะก็ so อันนี้วันนี้เราจะเป็นการพูด2ภาษานะคะก็อาจจะสลับภาษาไทยภาษาอังกฤษบ้างนะคะ so I would like to a very warm welcome to Mr. Lee Yan Keng. We are so grateful. This is I think you have been kindly, being with us with Equitable Education Fund for the second time. Last year you were also with us, with the regional conference on equitable education. So, and this year as well. So we are so grateful for your very kind support to meet with school principal and teachers in Thailand. And we are very much looking forward to learning from you, since Singapore education system has been praised highly as one of the best in the world. And also today, with a very important topic that we will be focusing on how teaching profession development system for Singapore is implemented for educators and teachers. So we are very much looking forward to learning from you. So without further ado, the floor is yours, Mr. Lee. Thank you so much.
Hi, good afternoon, distinguished guests and friends. Allow me to share screen first. Give me a moment. So in my presentation, I will cover 3 broad areas, namely Singapore's education landscape, Singapore's professional development ecosystem for educators, and thirdly, the implementation for SFED. So let me start by sharing the larger landscape of education in Singapore, which led to the areas identified and focused upon within the SFED PD roadmap that you heard our former Minister Ong shared in the video earlier on. So let me begin by sharing some basic information about Singapore. Some of this information would probably not be alien to all of you. We have a population of about 5.5 million people from 4 major ethnic groups: Chinese, Malay, Indian, and Eurasian. And the values of openness and multiculturalism, self-determination, and excellence had shaped Singapore's history, and they remain important for our country's future. Let me briefly highlight some key facts and figures for the public education sector in Singapore. Education has been the bedrock of Singapore's success in the last 50 years, and our government have been and will continue to invest heavily in education. Our education budget for 2021 amounts to about 13.62 billion Sing dollars, That's about approximately 3% of our GDP. We have about 346 schools with about 422,000 students enrolled in them. So over the years, our Ministry of Education has steadily built up the size of our teaching force. Currently, we have about 33,000 teachers in service. All government schools in Singapore are staffed with teachers who are centrally recruited by MOE and trained at the National Institute of Education. We call this NIE, our equivalent of the Teachers Training College. The historic development of the Singapore education system reflects Singapore's economic transformation over the years. In the initial stages, we were driven by the need to survive. As a small country, we made use of the main resource we had, labor, and focus on labor-intensive manufacturing. Our education system correspondingly focused on technical skills relevant to industrialization. This helped our economy to grow. We move up the value chain towards more capital-intensive and skills-intensive industries. We focus on efficiency to ensure that more students progress through the education system and that they had the relevant skills and training to contribute to these industries. Since 2012, we have been in the student-centric, values-driven phase of education with the objective to nurture a love for learning by our students and to raise upright, confident, knowledgeable, and skillful young adults with a lifelong passion for learning. So to do so, what we have been doing and currently still doing would be to reduce the overemphasis on academics, increase emphasis on developing other interests, provide distinctive programs and increase the diversity in our education system, and introduce programs to develop character and values. Going forward, with technological advancements, disruptions, and rapid globalization, our future economy is dynamic and evolving. So therefore, it is critical for us to nurture lifelong learners with the confidence to navigate through our increasingly complex world and to seize emerging opportunities. The mission of Singapore's Ministry of Education is to mold the future of our nation. And to do so, we focus on developing key competencies for our students by equipping them with the knowledge and skills that enable them to seize the opportunities. Second, we're supporting diverse aspirations by providing students multiple educational pathways throughout their life for holistic development. And thirdly, uplifting every student by ensuring that the education remains as an effective social leveler and every student, regardless of background, has equal access to opportunities. In 2018, MOE launched a reform movement of the education system called Learn for Life. So this movement builds on MOE's efforts over the past decades to continually strengthen our education system. So let me share some examples. From 2014, MOE started implementing subject-based banding in schools. This was expanded in 2020 with the objective to eventually phase out streaming in our Singapore schools. So this provided greater flexibility in subject offerings for our students and catered to the varying academic strengths of students in different subjects. We have refreshed our curriculum to strengthen the holistic development of our students and develop them as future-ready learners. Singapore MOE has been increasingly leveraging technology in learning as well. We have also been increasingly mainstreaming students with special needs. The proportion of students with special needs rose from 5% to 7% in our mainstream system. So our teachers and their practices in the classroom are critical to the success of all these initiatives. So as illustrated in this tree diagram, SFED, currently seen in the top right-hand corner, represented by the sun, is a critical component for the system to work well. To improve teachers' competencies and encourage lifelong learning, MOE introduced SFED in 2020, a PD roadmap, professional development roadmap, that supports teachers in strengthening their classroom practices to better meet the students' interests and needs. The focus in the Learn for Life movement is to prepare our students well for the future. And in this regard, the SFED seeks to support teachers in strengthening their classroom practice and implement the policy shifts under the Learn for Life phase of education. In this next segment, I will focus more on Singapore's professional development ecosystem for educators. But first, let me share a bit on our system for selecting, training, and developing teachers and principals. Teachers are at the core of our education system. I'm sure many colleagues here would agree with me. For all the initiatives that we want, teachers are the key in making sure that this can happen and translates to the ground in reality. So in Singapore, we focus on the few key characteristics. One, high quality of teachers. The MOE carefully selects prospective teachers. Teachers have strong academic foundation. It's essential to the education service. But beyond that, the commitment to the profession and willingness to serve diverse student bodies are also critical. Competitive salaries. Each year, the MOE examines a range of occupational starting salaries and adjusts the salaries of our beginning teachers as and when needed to ensure that teaching is attractive compared to other occupations for new graduates. We have also reviewed our remuneration periodically so that the salaries of our teachers are similar to other similarly demanding occupations. Strong leadership to ensure that our teachers can perform at their optimum levels, regardless of the schools and profiles of students they work with. We ensure that our school leaders have the most up-to-date educational expertise and management skills for them to guide our teachers to improve the quality of the student learning experiences. And last but not least, coherent professional development for teachers. So whether during initial teacher preparation or in-service professional growth, we ensure that the pedagogical knowledge and classroom practices that our teachers receive are up to date and grounded in theory and research. For Singapore, the recruitment of teachers is deliberate. It's targeted to build sustainable pipelines for manpower needs in our schools. There is a rigorous selection process of pre-interview assessment, structured interview, and school assessment before suitable candidates are sent for initial teacher preparation. As there is significant cost in teacher preparation, we would like to be able to select quality candidates who are able to stay in the service. Hence, a contract teaching scheme. In Singapore, only certified teachers are eventually deployed to schools based on the subjects, staffing needs in schools, and the traveling time, of course, of the teachers. We have a 3-track career path for our education officers or teachers, and this caters to the different professional and career aspirations of teachers. This is unique to our system. Based on the teacher's interests, personal development, and career aspirations, there is flexibility to move within the system. So we have professional learning experiences that are designed and implemented to help teachers at various stages of their career development. So the teaching track provides professional development and advancement opportunities for teachers who are keen to further to develop their pedagogical capability of the teaching force. The school leadership track provides opportunities for teachers who are keen to contribute to the effective management and leadership of schools. And the senior specialist track provides opportunities for those who are inclined towards more specialized areas in educational development, where deep knowledge and skills are essential for breaking new grounds. I'm sure all of you will agree with me that a teacher's work is complex. It's often beyond teaching just the content. It is teaching the child. Hence, to support our teachers, the MOE has put in place allied educators and executive and admin staff that will support teachers in their work. So in Singapore, we have allied educators. You might find the term para-educators more familiar, who work with teachers to nurture and develop every child in school by raising the quality of interaction with every child. So for example, we have allied educator in learning and behavioral support. So this officer provides support to students with mild special educational needs such as dyslexia, ADHD, or mild ASD. We have outdoor education educator who conducts activities and facilitate learning and ensure the well-being of students in our outdoor adventure centers. We have a student welfare officer who is in the school to provide mentoring and social support to students at risk. And last but not least, a school counselor who's in school to provide support to students' mental health and social emotional development. So on top of that, we have our executive and administrative staff who provides administrative operational support to support our teachers. Our unique educational landscape and social cultural settings demand us to develop a unique PD system for our teachers. And these PD systems and practices work well for other systems will have to be customized to suit our local context and the expectations of various stakeholders in education. So the introduction of SFED in Singapore builds upon this PD ecosystem that we have built over several decades. Our teacher PD evolves with time, and this diagram illustrates the evolution of teacher PD in Singapore. We know that systemic support is essential for teachers to acquire skills and knowledge and to effect changes in their classroom practices. So over in Singapore, this systemic support is manifest in the form of various groups helping teachers in their PD. So of course, the biggest group will be Ministry of Education headquarters and schools, where we provide professional learning experiences to equip teachers with the knowledge and skills grounded in practitioners' insights. We have one AST, as you can see in this tree diagram, where we build a teacher-led culture of professional excellence centered on the holistic development of child. I'll elaborate later on AST a bit more. We, of course, we have a very close partner, our National Institute of Education, where all our in-service, our pre-service teachers will go through and they are equipped with the basic knowledge to embark on classroom teaching. And on top of that, of course, we have external PD providers and our civil service college. Our human resource group plays an important role in providing the structural anchor in terms of the professional development packages, monetary incentives, the teacher quota provision for schools to support professional learning. The Academy of Singapore Teachers, where I am from, AST for short, was set up in 2010 to spearhead the PD of MOE teachers. So AST, together with the other teacher academies, aim to build communities of practice for like-minded professionals of subject disciplines, for teachers to come together and learn from one another, develop stronger camaraderie and professionalism. Our philosophy and belief about continuous professional development of teachers is encapsulated in this phrase: teacher ownership, teacher leadership. Teachers driven by a sense of mission and purpose influence one another to excel professionally within a climate of trust and supporting relationships. So this implies that teachers who display a strong sense of ownership and leadership are committed to the ethos of the profession. They also build positive teacher-teacher relationships within their fraternity and show initiative to design learning experiences for self and others to strengthen one another's professional practice. On this slide, you see the teacher growth model for teachers' professional development. This was introduced in 2012, and it presents a comprehensive approach for Singapore teachers to enhance their competencies as they grow towards the 5 desired teacher outcomes throughout their professional journey. These 5 teacher outcomes are the ethical educator, the competent professional, the collaborative learner, the transformational leader, and the community builder. These outcomes are essential to our unique educational landscape. The teacher growth model, or TGM we call it, seeks to provide for the continuous and holistic growth of teachers as professionals and reflective practitioners. In case you're wondering how does this link to SFED? So our SFED focuses on 2 aspects of the teacher outcomes: the competent professional and the professional transformational leader. Which brings me to the 3rd segment on implementation of SFED. So how does SFED support educators in Singapore? SFED was developed to signal the importance of teachers' classroom practice in 6 areas of practice, which would support these systemic changes under the Learn for Life movement that I shared earlier on. In the short video clip that you watched earlier, former minister spoke about the 6 areas of practice. The 6 areas of practice in SFED were identified through a 3-pronged approach. First, we scan classroom teachers about what's needed in order to implement Learn for Life changes. Second, we drew from research findings on the latest developments in the educational landscape. So for example, TALIS, the Teaching and Learning International Survey 2018 findings, which indicated the new knowledge and skills that teachers need to possess in order to prepare our students for the future. The third gave voice to teachers who expressed their areas of need in a survey conducted by MOE. Interestingly, the two approaches led to the same areas of practice. So this shows that the 6 areas of practice are indeed the way forward for our teachers. Allow me in the next couple of slides to share each of these areas of practice. The first is assessment literacy. So under assessment literacy, teachers will learn to design purposeful and meaningful assessments to develop our students in intrinsic motivation to learn and reduce overemphasis on academic results. Second, DI or differentiated instruction. So under DI, teachers will learn to understand the diverse learning needs of our students and plan and adapt their instruction and assessment to meet these needs in more heterogeneous classrooms. Inquiry-based learning. Teachers learn to facilitate students' learning through inquiry in their subject disciplines and guide student-directed inquiry in a meaningful and impactful manner. Such an approach seeks to enhance our students' curiosity in learning, as they will have to both problem find and problem solve in the future. E-pedagogy. Teachers will learn to design and enact learning experiences with appropriate digital technologies, such as the student learning space and the personal learning devices for active learning, and tap these affordances for blended learning. So in doing so, our students will be more engaged and better prepared for the digital future. Under character and citizenship education, all our teachers will be equipped as CCE teachers to implement the CCE 2021 curriculum, which will anchor our students on a strong foundation of moral values, good character, resilience, and encourage them to be active and future-ready citizens. And last but not least, support for students with special educational needs. It's key for our teachers to have an understanding of SEN and enact effective strategies to support the learning of our students with mild SEN in inclusive classrooms. These 4 levels of practice were conceptualized to provide teachers with more guidance on the level of PD that they would like to focus on under each specific area of practice. MOE and the National Institute of Education co-conceptualized these 4 levels of practice for each of the 6 areas to ensure a seamless progression from pre-service to in-service professional development. NIE will equip the student teachers to be at the emergent level when they graduate from the NIE. Beginning teachers who just graduated from NIE need professional support and time to strengthen their competencies to be effective classroom teachers. So they then eventually arrive at the proficient level where they can effectively enact classroom practices. Teachers who wish to deepen their practice can aspire towards the accomplished and leading levels in the spirit of teacher ownership and teacher leadership. So teachers at the accomplished level will be very skillful and adaptive in their classroom practice, and teachers at the leading levels will be effective in guiding other teachers to strengthen their classroom practice. So a range of PD offerings have been tagged to each level so that teachers can be guided by the levels of practice to identify the PD which is appropriate to them. The aspiration is for teachers to work towards at least the proficient level in all 6 areas of practice over a period of 5 to 6 years. SFX can be used for PD planning by various teacher profiles. So for teachers, for example, teachers can use it to self-assess their levels of classroom practice and determine for themselves the areas of needs for development. At the school leaders and key personnel level, they can use it to SFX to identify the learning needs of teachers and to chart the key learning directions for their schools over the next few years. So this particular slide shows an example of how our National Institute of Education also provide the accompanying support for professional learning and continuing education in the area of SFX at the accomplished and the leading levels. And in closing, let me just share that a bit about Singapore's approach to equity in education. Singapore's approach can be largely encapsulated in these 4 aspects. 1, expanding the definition of success beyond academic sphere to recognize students with different skill sets and dispositions, their strengths and their interests. Second, embrace the diversity, allow students to pursue their talent and interests through the different educational pathways. So we expand educational pathways. So in Singapore, we have specialized schools, we have the independent schools, and of course, we are in the midst of implementing full subject-based banding. Thirdly, access to good quality early childhood care and education. And lastly, safeguarding education as a social leveler. So that's our approach. And you can see some aspects of this in the Learn for Life movement that I shared earlier on. The road ahead for SFX for Singapore. Currently, we are about 2 years into our journey. Certainly, in the objective of strengthening classroom practices, that's our focus. And we continue to strengthen teachers' classroom practices and provide the necessary professional development support for our teachers. So this is ongoing. We have embarked on an evaluation study in parallel to determine how teacher practices have changed over time in partnership with National Institute of Education. So that's an ongoing study that we are conducting, and this study will draw data from teacher surveys as well as research programs and which tap classroom observations and teacher interviews. So with that, I'd like to end my presentation. Thank you so much.